Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
What is up? How is it going?
It's going.
Mhm,
Yeah, how are
mhm.
you?
I am very happy to be here. I know that June was sort of taking me for a surfing ride, and I was hoping that we would actually be able to get through and connect in June, and so I'm very glad to actually have made it in June.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So I'm just
June
I'm
has,
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here because it's been a ride. I can't wait to get into some of the stuff, but yeah, it's been a ride.
yeah, June has been busy for me too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I always forget what we usually do, which is whatever we feel like. So, so as usual, I will share the card that I pulled for the week. We can just always share a little bit about it if we want to, and then move on to our own joy tantruming and what's really going on with us. So the card, as you would have seen on the live, or you missed the live, but you saw that I
I saw
posted
the
it
card.
was allowances, and it's the card itself. The highlighted framing of the card says allowances can be a great way to teach children about money. And one of my favorite points in the explanation speaks about showing empathy and avoiding rescuing. So, I'm not gonna read the card because I always put the link in the bio for others, and I just want us to like vibe off of what we take from it. But what I took from it for Secret Dialogue that I shared this week on the live was um, being aware of ways we allow ourselves. What allowances do we give ourselves? How do we value ourselves? So not just money, but seeing ourselves as resources, seeing ourselves as valuable assets and aspects of ourselves and our relationship to ourselves and to our family units and our intimate spaces. And where did we first learn money, responsibility, and um, allowance? Like, where did we learn about our ability to allow ourselves? So that's like the secret dialogue aspects of it. So that's my show and tell.
Yeah, that I saw the card. I can't wait to watch the live to hear more about that. But the card definitely resonated with me on a lot of levels.
Mhm.
I shared the joke with you and under the post about
Yeah.
giving Sohe $5 towards his swing set. But thinking about myself and giving myself an allowance, like you just mentioned, is something that's really coming up for me right now because, like, um, I guess for the first time, like I'm actually about to own furniture. Because I'm converting my lease to unfurnished. So like the appliances and the furniture, like I had never really thought about that before. Like I've always, for me, moving, like I was thinking about what's the easiest way for me to move out. Because at the time when I was ready to move out, I was just ready to move out. I didn't want to make it complicated. I didn't really think about trying to own anything because I'm just trying to move. Um, but yeah, it's coming up for me in a lot of different ways because not only having to invest in myself and in my son and home, um, but in other ways, like thinking about how it is, like what the dynamics are in my like personal relationships with others,
Mm-hmm.
and how we are resources to each other, in what ways the energy flows between us, and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. That's been coming up a lot for me lately, just noticing where I still flow energy, where I've kind of slowed it down or cut it off, where I cannot depend and where I can.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that in a lot of ways, like I've been able to depend on myself for so many things. So, yeah.
And I love that. I want to make a distinction, a deconstructive in a poetic way distinction with the words and the word sound and power of it, um, and highlighting the dynamics of it and how dynamic and powerful it is. Like there's so many little levels there and so many degrees and so many tangents in the allowances we give ourselves. So when I said it the first time, I didn't mean the way we allow ourselves. But of course, this week actually, I spent a lot of time with something new that I'm working on in Secret Dialogue, in talking about our energetic real estate of presence and our ecological, economical way with our bodies. And um, so I had to like make a list of the spaces, the aspects of myself and my network that I need to give actual allowance to. So I'm giving each one for the purpose of the Secret Dialogue thing. This is an exclusive. I'm giving something that I'm creating in real time. So I'm, for the purpose of it, like I'm trading on paper and I'm giving each one $3 just to see how much it fundamentally and foundationally costs. So if I were to give every aspect of every part of myself and my tangent and my unit that I care about $3, how much money would that be? And just to come to terms with that comfortable number and go into the numerology of it, and it goes on many different tangents for the but just saying that to you as well. So there is, like, you have to buy furniture, and therefore you have to see like how much of a salary and an allowance do I give myself in actual cash, but and in resources and in access. When you talk about being able to depend on others and depending on yourself, and depending on yourself from the depending on others from the foundation of the relationship you have with yourself. So there's all of that in it. And really at the end of the day and throughout the day, it's the acknowledgement, the reiteration and the reaffirming of, I've got this, I've been doing this. Every day I rise and breathe life and love into my own midwifing and self-delivery of myself, and just keep that affirming and celebrating flow, ebb and flow of our cells and our ability to be our SD allowance source, which is what I call it in Secret Dialogue. So we're all right there. And I mean, it's so funny because when I thought about this as trading on paper, I was so excited to tell you about it, but I meant to tell you about it in maybe on another live or at another time in another private conversation. I didn't even think about bringing it to the podcast, and then look at how it just kind of came in.
Yeah. I find the cards are always on point like that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's all of us. It's what sync is. It's what I call serendipitous sync. Like we live in that, and there's always, everything matters. So anything you pay attention to matters most. It's just the way it is. So this is only confirmation that everything you've thought of so far about the furniture and moving situation is going to come to pass exponentially beyond your wildest dreams. Like to me, like the fact that we're talking about it right now just isn't, it's a confirmation and a reaffirming and a need to celebrate, like, man, have I got this. And boy, was I wasn't always here. And for me, all the more reason to do this. Like every time we do this, I'm just like so happy. Like it seems like there's spaces where it's like so simple and maybe, you know, an ignorant entity could argue not a big deal, but then every time we connect and choose to do this, I'm just like, that was such a great conversation. And whether somebody took anything from the conversation in the podcast or not, like the energy you take from the purity that both of us are bringing to each other in the space, like if you are listening to this, I guarantee you something freaking phenomenal is happening for you. And I just want you to like take a beat, take a breath, exhale, inhale, and receive it. Like, can we just stop and do that together? Like, can we just do
Absolutely.
that? Can we just exhale, push everything out, all the nonsense before we enter the space, push it out, and hold, make the body want for the breath, then inhale. Yes. there's that need as well to just set the pace today. Like there's a hot season coming, and all the temperance in the world is needed for it. And we really need to find a new version of our easy skanking and a real sensual erotic ride in that surfing tsunami tide. And I know we're here for it.
Yeah, especially the sensual erotic ride, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's like for me, honestly. When I listen back to the podcast, like, before I post when I'm editing, I'm like,
Yeah, I listened to it like, we are so awesome.
I like those girls.
I'm like blushing at me, I'm blushing at you. I'm just like, yes, that.
Yeah. Oh, but yes, so much, like I think at several points during the month of June, um, there was something I kept saying to myself week after week, because, like I do several different things, just livelihood wise. I do several different things, and I um, put a little bit of urgency on myself for one, because I know I'm changing my situation. Well, not my living space, but my living arrangements and everything, among other things that I just, wanted to basically do for myself.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, um, like literally, I'm not doing it for anyone else, but I am saying to myself that I'm gonna show myself what it is that I can do.
Yeah.
And funny enough, so like maybe second week of June or something, I'll have to check my tweets, because I tweeted my thoughts live.
Yeah.
I thought to myself that for the second half of the year, I wanted to double my income. So it's June. We haven't started the second half of the year, but I'm thinking about July.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know was that I would do it in June.
Mm.
Like I did not expect to, but how it worked out. I think I started kind of mentioning this to you on one of the previous lives, but through like the work that I've been doing on the phones, talking to people,
Yeah.
I've had like a lot of realizations where just, for context, for anybody who doesn't know and is listening to this, but Xylo is fully aware that like, so for the past like year and a half, I've been making extra money, like free time and stuff, doing phone sex work, like phone sex calls,
Mm-hmm.
talking to people or doing, different stuff like that. And through talking to several different people, um, I've kind of connected with talking to them about certain insecurities that they have in their sex lives, like
Mm-hmm.
whether it be with their own selves or with the person that they're with, where there's a disconnect, or maybe they don't really want the same things exactly. Um, Among a lot of different things, including like body insecurities that spill over into sexual insecurities and all of that.
Yeah.
So I started processing a lot of that, like a lot of my own, stuff that like throughout my teenage years, for example, being like a smaller girl who I went through puberty later than my other peers. I didn't realize it, but I actually dealt with certain insecurities myself, where even into my like past puberty, into my early teens, I was insecure about how sexy I was, because I didn't feel sexy back then. Like I knew what sexy was. Well, thought I knew what sexy was. I
Mm-hmm.
had an idea of what I thought sexy was, but I didn't feel like I fit that description at like 15, 16, 17, even if I might have started thinking about wanting to fit that description, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Um, so talking to other people and hearing them like express things like that and everything, I actually got an opportunity like through that same um, like line of work to do a separate line for advice, like, and I chose to center it kind of around that, like people's insecurities about not just their own, like the way that they show up sexually, but also the things that they might want that they're not exactly at peace with, or they haven't really come to terms with it. So just as an example,
Love that.
um, sometimes you have like a certain fantasy. I remember when I first moved back to St. Lucia, I met this guy who was really passionate about like women being able to express themselves sexually. Like he mentioned something to me that I had not really thought about before. Like back then, I guess it's not so much that way now, but back then I definitely felt like a lot of people felt that way. He said to me, why is it so, it's such a different response to say if a man says that he wants a threesome as opposed to a woman saying that she wants a threesome.
Mm-hmm.
um, the response that you might get from the same person would be completely different. And even the way that people refer to it is different. Like a man with two women is a threesome, a woman with two men is borderline gangbang slash train. Like the terminology is different, the ideology behind it is different. Like people just look at it differently. So he mentioned that to me, and I had never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
But say, for example, a woman wants something like that, she desires that. But because of the way it's looked upon by other people, she begins to feel like there might be something wrong with it. So she feels like there might be something wrong with her because she even wants that.
Right.
So I've had people reach out to me to talk about certain fantasies that they have that they feel like they should not want. They're not really at peace with wanting it.
Yeah.
And that has been amazing. Like I set up the line and I wasn't really sure what to expect.
Yeah.
But I put my price like way higher than my the other stuff that I do. And I just let it sit there. And
Yeah.
I set it up thinking eventually somebody will call. Like I got this guy calling me soon after and we spoke. We've had like several sessions.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because we have similar religious backgrounds from our childhood.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that he's explained to me, I'm realizing things about myself as well through our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then through talking, like it turns out that he's actually a sex therapist and he's processing a
Awesome.
lot of his own like insecurities, but he wants somebody else to talk to, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
Wow. There's so much.
I
Oh
was,
my gosh. There's so much
I,
scope for wonderful work over time. Like there's so much beautiful research in that, like what you're saying by itself. But now that you would have attracted that that caliber of client, um, benefiting from the safe space that you create and the amplification space that you create is the allowance that that you provide, the allowance
yeah,
and the village aunties would, the financial foreplay that you allow for yourself by
yeah,
setting a new tier, and for people meeting you there because you have self-activated. So you are tuning into that frequency of those who are there or definitely at the brink of being there and wanting to amplify that energy. So anyway, I just got really excited. You were saying about attracting the sex therapist and him processing his work.
yeah. That has been really, really exciting, honestly. Talking to him, it's helped me in a lot of ways to just like process things a lot differently. Like there's so many parallels.
Mhm.
He's done different types of therapy himself, and some of it is really in line with stuff that I'm interested in. So, as an example, something that you'd be aware of that I'm really into. He's actually seen like done sessions with a woman who does like tantra therapy
Mhm.
and told me about some of their sessions, and I'm listening to the stories like, oh my goodness, this is so awesome. Like this is so awesome. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And I didn't even think about that being how I would double my income for my monthly income. But I just saw it and I was just like, I wonder if I could just I think it would be cool if I, and it's funny because even before I started doing the phone stuff, that was kind of how we were talking at your birthday. And I was like, you know what I think I would be really good at? Like my voice is just perfect for like a phone sex line. And
Yeah,
yeah, and 2 weeks later I was just doing it,
love it. Um, oh my gosh, I love that so much. I want to touch it in so many different spaces. Let me see. What do I want to touch first? I think for the purpose and the grounding and my intention of this platform that we are sharing, I want to go in a more seemingly serious space of it, but like I know that everything will come around as it does. So I just kind of want to ask you to go a little deeper into like, what's that like for you? And take it, don't even ask me what I mean, just take it however it comes out, take it however it feels. What is this experience like for you as a mom?
It is very, very interesting. And it's just like, when I was teaching, before Soleil was born and when he was just born, I felt like I drew from my work experience to apply into parenting. Like I got a practice field with kids, that I could apply
For
with
someone
my
who
own
for someone who's
child.
listening, meaning that you were a teacher before. For
Yes,
anyone
I
who
was a
doesn't know. Yeah.
teacher. Yes. Um, I feel like there's a lot that I'm drawing from that experience because a lot of the men that I speak to, especially with the therapy, like the therapy line where they can
Yeah.
call me and just talk about stuff,
Yeah.
almost all of them that I speak to are talking about how their relationship with their mothers have.
My God! Like
Yes.
you, oh, sorry, I need to just stop. Like, I'm cutting you off because I want us to like really set a pace. I want us to move so slowly. I want you to speak extra slowly. I also want to throw in a bit of a other thing to say. If you really want to, I need to like sacred dialogue you for 1 minute, second. If you really want to, that's the tantrum, right? That's the tantrum. The joy tantrum is happening. Like it's all happening. Like we've been all of ourselves all at the same time, and all aspects are coming out. So you're talking and I'm thinking, if you really want to double your income for the second half of the year, I feel like Universal is like, bet, let me first raise your income to what it should have been. Now, in the next 2 days, can you please double the current income moving forward? So that is my golden battle to you. That's one thing. Yeah. And then let's go back because I really want to like make love to what you are saying. And I want to just repeat it and then I want you to continue and then I will shut up to let you continue in that just space of, first you said, you were being a teacher and you learned so much about teaching and about children and about learning and the learning processes so that influence how you parent. Now you're talking about doing phone sex and you're saying that you're listening to these men's insecurities and it's touching on their relationship and the nature of their relationship with their moms. And of course with the work I do, like I live this all the time, so I'm just turned on and excited by um in my creative spaces and in my self activation for the work that I'm doing in the world, to have just another human mermaid merkin being on the planet have this experience, because this is something that I have been living, that's been burning inside me for so long, and it means so much to me to know that we can come at life from motherhood and touch on the sensual assurance, confidence, and presence and embodiment of our boys, because they are sensual beings from birth because they are human, and being honest about the insecurities that we project onto them from the beginning because of all of ours and our relationships with their fathers and our relationships with our fathers and our relationships with ourselves, and the lack of allowance that we give ourselves for that kind of learning process throughout the lifespan. Okay, so continue.
That last line, the lack of allowance that we give ourselves. Yeah.
So
There's
you were telling me
just
what you learned about the process and how it's influenced. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I have listened to so many men just walk me through um, what their relationship with their mom is like, what kind of experiences they had with their mothers growing up, and hearing them relate that to certain thoughts and feelings that they're experiencing right now or that they experienced through life. And that has like really given me so much. I've heard so many varying experiences as well. You know, they're like all over the spectrum.
Mm.
It's just so interesting, and it's really clarified for me a lot of different things. A lot of there's also a lot else happening. You know, with you know boys in my family,
Mm.
as I have, you know, nephews and stuff as well who are growing up and everything. And through my sister, I'm hearing, you know, stories that his mom shares with my sister about him. And it's just, I'm just processing
Mm-hmm.
so much about how, as a mom, I can be supportive, not just as a mom, but as a mom and nurturer of other men around me,
Mm-hmm.
and well, women too. But for now, I'm focused on boys and men around me,
Mm-hmm.
being supportive to them in their growth as a sensual and a sexual being. And there's a lot that I did not think about that boys are insecure about. Like, I knew the types of insecurities that girls might face because I was one.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I've known at least what I experienced from my perspective, and having insight into the perspectives of like those who were close to me.
Mm-hmm.
But even having five brothers, I did not know a lot of what boys like ruminate over in their teens, or even before their teens, all the things that they think about that my son might think about at some point, or would likely think about at some point. Um, and also hearing where that comes from. Like there are a lot of simple things that sometimes we don't even think about that affect bonds between a mother and a son, both positively and negatively. There's a lot. So I had not had any insight into a lot of that stuff, you know, before I became a mom, or even when I just became a mom. But through doing that work, and through um, getting the opportunity to talk to grown men about their childhood experiences and the experiences of their mom, has been remarkable.
Yeah. Makes you appreciate your boy so much more because you're building him to one day be a man. And
Yeah.
one small and big part of being a man is being sensually comfortable and um respectful and powerful in a way that is resolute, and to be creative and centered in the way he penetrates life. So to have a mom who is so sensually and erotically free and explorative and open is a powerful thing for him. And what an intelligent being to have chosen you as a mom. What a guy. I'm not sure if you're seeing this notification, but we're gonna have to like start and stop. So let's
Oh,
just do that.
oh yes, I